Russia, being the world's largest nation, which borders European and Asian countries, Russia is famous for rich culture and heritage. Steeped in history and greatly influenced by religion, Russian architecture is known for its vibrantly painted structures that includes dome, sloped roofs, and the ornate decoration. Russia is building the Arctic Silk Road and the project funded by the Research Council of Norway. It follows the imagination of global infrastructures across time and space. For more than 10 years now, Russia and China have expressed great expectations as to the use of NSR for freight transport from Asia to Europe. However, little has happened on that front. Instead, Russia has focused on massive expansion of its gas production. And for the first time, Russian gas is being transported by tankers with icebreaker capacity. The international shipping industry has been watching the opening of the Arctic Silk Road between the Western Pacific and the Northern Atlantic because it would halve the time it takes for containers to get from Shanghai to Rotterdam. The plan was discussed by Andrew Hivis, the governor of the Murmansk Oblast, and Timur Ivanov, the deputy minister of defense, during a meeting. He said Rosatom Cargo, a subsidiary of nuclear engineer Rosatom, proposed a container port able to handle up to 4.5 million units, about the size of the port of Tokyo. Rosatom has suggested that it will spend some $7 billion on developing the Arctic for trade. Kivis said the company is ready to begin work on the Kola project as soon as the land is released. Rosatom Cargo is said to be planning to build 2 terminal hubs as part of its Northern Sea Transport Corridor project. It will also construct up 30 ice-class container ships with strengthened hulls and engines powerful enough to push through ice floes. The Barents Observer notes that no site has been named for the port, but that a railway is under construction along the western shores of Kola Bay. In 2018, Chinese government published a white paper on China's plan to build supporting infrastructure along the route. In January, Russia announced plans to build a fleet of 40 ice-class ships, renovate 4 airports, and build ports and rail links to the Arctic over the next 15 years. In 2018, about 20 million tons of freight were transported using the polar route, largely Russian oil and gas. FNI researcher Iselin Stenstall focuses on China's energy and climate policies. China needs gas, especially now that they aim to move away from coal, that makes LNG a natural replacement. In 2017, China announced its plan for a polar silk route between Asia and Europe as part of its massive infrastructure project, the Belt and Road Initiative. In 2018, China presented its Arctic policy. China sees itself as a near-Arctic state and has had observed status in the Arctic Council ever since 2013. For China, it is important to revitalize the northern part of its territory. Hegeland points out that China is financially and technologically strong, assets that Russia can appreciate. Many Chinese experts hold that Russia is in no condition to upgrade its own infrastructure along the northern coast without assistance. However, a polar Silk Route, which would include the NSR, is still only a vague idea and has not attracted actual investments. Russia and China today have shared interest in the global struggle for power. Cooperation in the Arctic is seen as something positive, but there is no agreement on the specific terms. Hagelin concludes, new highways, 2 airports, 15 villages, and several electricity plants will be developed around the area to get construction off the ground and the house the 400,000 workers that are needed to make it all happen. So far, more than 18,000 tons of heavy machinery, living quarters, and communication equipment has been shipped to the site. The country is also building a 770-kilometer pipeline to transport oil to the port, where 10 new ice-class tankers will take it the rest of the way to Europe and Asia. Once fully completed, it will deliver 25 million tons of oil by 2025 and 1,000 million tons by 2030. A number of new railways are also being built to service these ports. Construction is underway on a 500-kilometer line to link Perm in the Ural Mountains with several northern port cities. The 12,600-kilometer long cable stretches from the rural village of Tereberka to Vladivostok, improving internet and phone connections for 2.5 million people who live in Russia's far north, roughly half the population of the entire Arctic. Russia also recently installed an $889 million fiber with the name the Polar Express. The United States has reminded Russia that the Northern Sea Route and the Northwest Passage are used as straits for international navigation and are not exclusively under their control, although a lot of route does fall into the country's exclusive economic zone. Russia has always been slow in regards to climate change. The Kremlin tends to downplay its seriousness while it has been a major domestic issue politically. Russia is the world's first largest emitter of greenhouse gases and ratified the Paris Agreement in 2019. Now it is committed to reaching net zero carbon emission by 2060, although it has yet to agree to phasing out coal and methane emission over the next decade. The role of China in the development of the transit highway project, which remains a reserve of the international transport system, is analyzed. There are some high expectations of Russia from the project, as the neighboring country is extremely cautious in its implementation, investing capital mainly in mining. In addition, there is a fear that the declared principles of the project implementation will lead, if not to the complete displacement of Russian business, then to a sharpened awakening of its positions. This point of view is confirmed by the policy of Chinese investors to exercise strict control over the emerging transport arteries. Among the vulnerable points of the Silk Road project implementations are severe natural condition, restriction of the navigation season, insufficient capacity of the iceberg fleet, economic sanctions of the United States and Western Europe, as well as the difficulties of creating a modern transport infrastructure along the sea route. In the present geopolitical circumstances, mutual cooperation on the Arctic routes would be much more beneficial for both countries. Thanks for watching this video till the end.